Hey everybody, Nolan here. We are back with another plant talk. Today we're talking about the Northern White Cedar, which we have sitting back here. It's also known as Thuja occidentalis, and it can also be called the arborvitae, which means tree of life in Latin. Now, I kind of just lied to you guys because this tree is actually part of the cypress family. So its common name is Northern White Cedar, but here in Ontario, we don't have any actual cedar trees that grow. All trees in the cedar family grow around the Mediterranean. So this one is actually part of the cypress family, but we call it the Northern White Cedar. And when you think of a cedar tree here in Ontario, this is the one you think of. So you have these nice big flat scaled leaves. So we have a little one right here. Hopefully it focuses. You can kind of see it a little bit. So it has scaled leaf. Only the cedars in Ontario have this. If it wants to actually focus on it, but if you can make it out, it kind of overlays kind of like a snake scale. So each of these individual little branches of the leaf, the lobes you could say, they actually have overlapping scales. Now you can kind of see it under there. It has kind of like a peely orange brown bark to it. Now we have one of its seeds here. So these seeds, they actually contain about 8 seeds in each of these. So this is just kind of like the seed cone. And yeah, each one of these can contain about 8 seeds. So it grows a whole bunch of them. They're all over the place. They kind of look, they're similar to pine cones, but they're cedar cones because they're from a cedar tree, not a pine tree. And then as well with the white cedar, it has typically flat leaves that grow. So its scaled leaves kind of grow flat. Whereas you'll have the eastern red cedar, which kind of grows out in bunches more like a spruce tree. This is super unique because the leaves actually grow completely flat. Now this tree, it likes to grow in swamps and on cliffs. So we have it kind of on the edge of a little wetland here because it really hates competition. So you'll find it all over the escarpment as well, especially if you go up towards the Bruce Peninsula on the rock cliffs there. It's able to thrive in these really unique environments where there's not a lot of competition. And then these white cedars, they're threatened by high deer populations because deers love to munch on them. Because they're coniferous trees, that means they have their leaves year round. So that means that they're a really good food source year round. So deer populations among other animals will, tend to strive more towards these. As well, these are super nutrient leaves. So these leaves have super high concentrations of vitamin C. And it is believed that this is the tree that Jacques Cartier and his men used to cure their scurvy when they had scurvy here. And the indigenous people showed them and was like, hey, if you have these leaves, especially making tea out of the leaves, it's super, super beneficial. Now these trees also can live a really, really, really long time. They've been found to live over 1,600 years in the right conditions, but usually only around 200 years is their typical lifespan. Now these trees will be used by indigenous peoples primarily as ribbing for canoes, and then the oil in the plant can be used as a cleanser, a disinfectant, insecticide, soaps, and then it's also used to make teas that help with constipation and headaches. And from what I've heard, if you crush the needle leaves up, it's supposed to smell like a green apple. I mean, I definitely think it smells good, but I wouldn't say it's a green apple smell. You'll have to test it for yourself, but that's just my personal opinion. Now, this is a super, super sacred tree to indigenous peoples. It's used for a lot of ceremonies, and Ojibwe used to call it the tree, I'm not gonna try to pronounce it, but it'll be on screen here, which means the grandmother cedar. So this is a really, really useful tree to them. They were able to use a whole bunch of it for a whole bunch of varying different things, and then that was able to help them live. And it was also a really, really good tree that was used in their ceremonies. So it's still used today in a lot of indigenous ceremonies. Now these trees, a lot of the times you'll also see them as hedges. So this is a typical hedge tree because it can grow kind of as a bush as well if you prune it properly. So you can have a huge hedgerow of these white cedars. And if you keep them maintained, then it looks like a proper hedge. But they can grow very sporadically, and kind of this one you can even see when we get down below, you can kind of see that its trunk has kind of grown out on an angle from the land itself to be able to reach sunlight, opposed to the other trees that are around it here. But this is the Northern White Cedar. You'll see it all over the place, and now you know what it is.